these are the governing principles when wanting, or the guiding principles when wanting to move from anywhere to anywhere, right? So understand what the transition, the impact on users, and you mentioned that earlier on. What is the impact on users? How do you communicate these things? And rightfully, like you said right in the beginning around identity and access management, switch on MFA and get users used to that by using the authenticator. Make that easy and communicate that efficiently. From there, moving into training, making sure that the user has some sort of guide so that when they switch on this new world, that they understand how it works. Because if a user's not trained or they're not communicated, they just are not interested in using that. But at the same time, making sure that you've got adequate governance policies in place, like what happens when I get a new phone and my MFA no longer works, right? Or when I'm using my spouse's desktop because my managed desktop exploded and I'm now coming from an unmanaged device. What is the governance around that? And lastly, like you said, you can't just switch on Teams, right? Rather provide that person's user experience to them the way they used to. So if you've got a user that lived in File Explorer and they moved from a file share and a home drive to Microsoft 365, by using OneDrive, just by using OneDrive, you can give the user almost a 99% fit user experience. The icons change, but it's still in File Explorer. So I understand that and know that you can't just switch on, and here we come back to the original thing we said with that picture, is switch on everything, right? It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
And actually, one point I would want to make from a File Explorer perspective, I use File Explorer day in, day out. That is, and as much as I live in Teams, as much as all my stuff, and I work with SharePoint all the time, File Explorer is how I access my files 99.9% of the time. So that's the thing is, it's in the right place. It's just that's how I access it. And this is where it's important to cater for all these things, because I'm bleeding edge, but I still want to work that way.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? People see all these tools. Yeah, you can move as many terabytes as you want into SharePoint, and you can have millions of documents there. But it's really about how the user accesses these documents. And yes, we know that Teams is this all-empowering, all-encompassing platform that Microsoft is putting in front of you. And yes, but understand your users. And I live in File Explorer as well. When I look for content, I go to my OneDrive, and that's where I know I put my content, so the content would be there, right? Because that's the other thing, the findability of content, which is important. And it doesn't really matter. And Microsoft always wants to give you the same unique experience. If you're sitting in Word, or you're sitting in File Explorer, or you're sitting in Teams, or you're sitting in SharePoint, or you're sitting in OneDrive, be it portal, web, or mobile, the user experience needs to be the same. You must be able to find that content, and you must be able to interact and engage with that content, and also collaborate around that content. And I think in the world we live in today, Microsoft has really shown everyone that it is possible for a user to live in File Explorer, or live in Outlook, or live in Teams, or live in SharePoint, and still have the same full fidelity file management experience. And that's what we want from a document management system. That's where we're going from an ECM perspective, how we apply DLP policies and preservation locks. That's where we want to go to. And Microsoft is providing this uniquely tailored concierge service to people that want to live in File Explorer. They get the same experience. People that want to live inside of Teams, they've got the Files tab, they get real-time co-authoring there. People that want to store their content in OneDrive in the cloud through a browser, they get that same file fidelity, full fidelity experience from a file experience perspective. And for me, that is probably the biggest thing, right? You need to make sure that you have the infrastructure in place. And when I say infrastructure, identity is managed, security is managed, mail is managed. And then you build out your information architecture, and then you can migrate stuff to it. And once you understand how the user uses it, you follow these guiding principles around transitional management, communication, training, governance, and user experience, chances are you'll bulletproof your migration